Imagine a conscious contact with God so strong that no matter what you are doing or not doing, that no matter what your kids are up to or not up to, and that whether you've got the person of your dreams or they're just not cooperating, that you are happy, content, and at peace. A space where everyone else's thoughts, attitudes, and actions are beautiful and exactly as they are supposed to be. Well, this is the space where I like to play. My name is Misha Z, and this is today's Bitch Slap. Join me as I shed light on the thoughts, actions, and attitudes that are causing you pain, and we train our minds to go to the capital S inner self, the joy that is waiting for us, the God within. Debra Silverman, welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you. It's called the Bitch Slap, the accelerated path to peace. I know. I wasn't sure.
You're not going to hurt me. Right? You're not going to hurt me?
I'm not going to hurt you. I wasn't actually sure if you knew the name. I was like,
I did know the name.
Okay, good. Okay. But of course, it's about those rough patches in life, and they can be opportunities for spiritual growth. And I was reading your missing element, and you talk a lot about that.
The first chapter of the book is called Crisis.
Yes. And I'll tell you one. I would say I have historically leaned towards fire, the fire element.
That's true. Oh my God. You should see your chart. You got a lot of fire.
Oh gosh, I can't wait to hear. I am so excited. But I just wanted to there's on page 153, you write about firemen and relationships. Last paragraph, it says, basically, trust me, I will be humbled. It happens to all firemen. Oh my God, I have been humbled. I read that. It was like, schwack. Anyway, so yes.
There are two kinds of people, the ones who are humble and the ones who are about to be.
Yes, I love that quote. You have that in your book. Who is that? Rumi.
It's anonymous.
It's anonymous. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. I very much appreciate you jumping in the fray with me. Anthony and Kim were so gracious, part of your team, to get this set up. And especially I interacted with Anthony a ton, and we actually had a lot of fun getting this set up. So I'm very excited. I am not. You're an astrologer and a psychotherapist, and you've been in astrology for almost 40 years, or by now, is it actually 40 years?
44.
44 years. What? Are you learning more all the time still with it?
I don't do readings anymore, but I've trained about 15 professionally trained astrologers on my site that have gone through a rigorous training with me and who are unbelievably good. So am I learning more and more all the time? Yes, it's a never ending. That's as big as the sky. And it tickles me. It tickles me all the time because I can't believe how accurate it is.
Yeah. And tell me about that. When you say that, some things must come to your mind. Like when you...
Well, every single day, every single minute that I look at someone's chart, I'm like, I just got the secret sauce. I feel like I'm in your drawers. I feel like I should be in your security box. Like, why do I know everything? It's a little bit, well, on one hand, it's disconcerting because how can it be so accurate every single time? And on the other hand, it's very confirming because you think, whoever organized that intelligence, that kind of matrix that was downloaded through Egypt and then handed to us 5,000 years ago, that's sustaining this much time, the test of time, it gives you real confidence that while we're going through this very difficult era, because I'm fixated on climate change right now, I'm reading everything I can read, I'm studying everything I can study, I'm watching every documentary and every podcast, I keep feeling so sad. And then I realize, wait a minute. Astrology endured. The things that are real will endure. The earth will survive. But astrology's had a real test of time.
Yeah, I love it. You know, my father I grew up in Jackson, Wyoming. My father was this mountain man, redneck, but he had he very much this hippie side to him. Like I liked it. Jackson, Wyoming in the 70s was like a hippie outpost, right? In the middle of this wild country. And so on the one hand, he was hunter, fisherman. I had elk every year, ducks, antelope. Like that he went out and hunted, right? But then on the other side of the coin, or maybe this goes with it, he was just into his yoga, his meditation, his crystals, astrology, right? And we talked briefly beforehand. When I turned 18, he had, my chart read, of course. And so I've been toting that around for.
Do you remember anything from that reading?
You know what? I had it. It was actually recorded on a cassette tape, and I wish I could find it. I so wish I could find it. But I remember, and this is what I wanted to say, what I remember about it is, and what I love about astrology, just the brief interactions that I have with it, is that, and you were just hinting to it, is that it like brings me this comfort or this knowing, or even if it's like, I remember back then it was like, your life's going to be fun for a little bit. I say fun, meaning it's going to be a little up and downy, right? But it's brought me this comfort, right? And that's what I remember about it. I just remember that first interaction going, oh, it might not be the answer that I wanted, but it was comforting. Do you hear that a lot? Or?
Oh, that's true. Yes. I think the biggest comfort is that somebody sees you in our system, how I teach, and I have a school twice a year. In January, it's coming up in September. We're opening up the doors in August. So we're only a couple months away, and you can get on a waiting list, because I teach it in a 6-week classroom setting where people really have their lives changed. It's so crazy, the amount of change that happens, because to your point, because they get comforted to know, oh, nothing's wrong with me. That's what my book is about, the missing element. Like you learn your element and you go, oh, so I'm so full of fire. No wonder I have excessive chi. Rather than trying to change it, there's comfort in knowing you're okay.
Yes. I love that. I wrote down, understand your quirks and the parts that are so confusing. Right. And so to get insight into that is really cool. I wrote down, I was watching one of your videos and I wrote down this quote, this is what you said on the video, and it was beautiful. You're not a mistake. You weren't pushed on the bus. God was not having a bad day when she made you. And I love that. I like this idea of there is you can give insight into our purpose, and not in a grandiose way, but in like, hey, here's how you can best move through, through the planet as you were designed, I guess might be a good way to say it. Yeah.
And it is grandiose. It's grandiose. You can get a reading done and answer the question, what's my purpose? And that question should be posed on a regular basis. Like I cannot be on this planet without serving. Just like I went and spent 3 days in silence out in nature. And I just thought, what do these trees and these rocks and the waterfalls and the birds and the bees do all day? They just give. They just give their life force. They just give their life force. They don't sit around and watch television. They hold down their frequency with authenticity. And that's what astrology, it gives you back permission to do it on your terms. Because some people are here just to be in a very insular, introverted, reclusive state. That's them being them. And some people are here to jump up and down and perform on a stage. Like radical difference. And astrology really does describe the difference.
Yeah, I love that. So quickly, I know you did my chart. Are we going to have an opportunity to talk about that? Because I'm excited to, and I would love, if I have no problem, whatever insights we're willing to glean in front of the audience.
That you just addressed is when you were born, the sun and the moon were squaring each other. One was in fire and one was in water. And that's not very compatible, as you can imagine. And it suggests the parents got divorced or there was a separation at a young age. Is that true?
That is true, indeed.
So it indicates that the childhood imprint will be put in place at a young age where they realize, whoa, this is not a very harmonious world. Why can't my mom and dad get along? And that imprint takes over, and then they have to learn through their life to reestablish harmony, because you're built with the premise that there's discomfort. One side of you is loud, fire, and one side of you is water and secretive and quiet. And so how, like your parents, like these two parts of you didn't get along. That's the clue of a sun square moon. And then the high road is, so what's the right use of that? Like God didn't make a mistake in the day you were born. She wasn't like, doing a bad chart, but she definitely wanted you to learn about the discomfort of having your male and female conflicted. So you would go do therapy. Busted.
Son of a gun. Well, so my parents did, they separated when I was 6 or 7 and divorced shortly thereafter. So yes. And it was, all I remember was that mostly tumultuous time.
Yeah. And then the child absorbs that. I'm also, a psychotherapist. And then that imprint becomes the norm. And then when you are sustaining heaven and earth or being able to really feel calm, you're like, what? So you have to be careful that you don't stir the pot, that you don't create conflict or drama or create some kind of a situation that you can have the fight, disagree, be conflicted in order to get close. Like that's not necessary, but that's a habit with sun square moon.
Okay. I like it. I was reading The Missing Element, which is your book that you published recently. It's relatively new, right?
Relativity.
Yes. And so I was reading that part. Yeah, I was reading about fire. And of course, I don't know what people's reaction are when they read about, the 4 elements and where we fit in. And how do I say this? I was like, I'm not fire. But then of course it's the last one. I read it and it's just like
screaming your name,
screaming my name. Of course it is. And so loving that, what was my
blunt
point?
and honest and being really ruthless and having passion and having the desire to be seen and acknowledged and wanting to be on the podcast and curly hair and everyone's going to notice me and hello, I'm here. And then your moon in Scorpio goes, really? You need that much attention? What's wrong with you? And you're like, why did you ask that? You're making me self-conscious. And that lives right inside of you.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
The fire and water, they are squaring each other. And then once you're aware that you have 2 voices that are disagreeing, that your parents represented, that now you're having an internal experience, you get to be the peacemaker with the observer. This is what I teach. The whole book is about turn on the observer and go, oh my God, she's right.
Yeah.
Well, now where's the free will button? I got to find it somewhere in this house.
I'll tell you I was reading about the drama aspect of that's fire, right? That drama. And so I was like trying to reflect it. Like, I'm like, do I like drama? Because I was really thinking about it. Because I'm like, I'm trying to be calm. And then the way you just described it about creating dramatic.
Do you see me? Am I here?
Yeah.
It's like a constant. The thing about that book, The Missing Element, is it's very simple. I did not put astrology in it. There's not one word of astrology in that whole book.
Yeah.
It's only the 4 elements. And just to announce, because I know this will be coming out in July, we have a class, a one-off class called Meet the Elements. And it's coming up July 14th, 21st, 28th, and 4th. It's every Wednesday starting the middle of July at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And you can go to live.meettheelements.com and sign up. So, because you don't need to know astrology. If you're listening to the show and you're like, I don't believe in astrology, or maybe I do, but I don't know enough about it. It's the simplest access point is simply asking, just like you did, what's my primary element? You can read the book. That's the shortest answer.
Yep.
But in the class, I'm going to be giving a concrete step to how to take the missing element that's not activated in you and grow it, cultivate it. So we know that you're really good at fire and water. You have no air in your chart at all. Do you know that?
What's that?
Do you know that?
I didn't. Tell me.
Do you remember what air was?
Yes, air was. Well, so yeah, it was. Give me 1 second.
Okay, you got me. I wrote the book.
Tell me what air was.
Well, that's why you're missing it, because it's hard for you to organize your thoughts.
Yes.
Like you're not organized intellectually without things written down, because your mind just goes everywhere. And that's what it's like to be missing air. A developed air is what I have, which is I have this ridiculous memory and I know exactly where we're going and my mind is focused. Yours is like, it's like a bird. Birds don't have maps. They let the wind follow them. They never have a plan, but they get where they're going. They just do it very spontaneously. So that would be one of your challenges.
Yes. It's like with this podcast episode is a great reflection of that. Some people are they know where they're going, what they're doing, and I tend to write down a bunch of disparate ideas and let's dive in and see where it goes. So
that's called no air. Air is the element of landing the plane, being able to take your thoughts and land them. You having no air in your chart, you must make notes, write things down systematically, or you're going to lose your track of your train of thought and then be like,
yes, exactly. I'll tell you what I loved about a couple things that I loved about the missing element. One was I liked reading about the, you would put like fire woman, right? Or air woman or whatever. And it gave, what's that?
Characteristics of each of them.
Yeah, the characteristics. And it really gave me, I was like, oh, so I have a Dawn, my ex-wife, we have a great relationship, but it was really fun to get a new perspective of her or past girlfriends to really be like, oh yeah, it was cool to get some insights into how people are. And then also I'm like, oh, what a powerful tool to use moving forward. Right. And so I loved that.
And it also went in the class, Meet the Elements. We wake up in the morning. The first thing we do is we drink water. That's so funny. You just picked that up. Right. When the first thing you do in the morning is first you go to the bathroom, you wash your face, you take a shower, you pee. It's all water, and water starts the day. But it's also meditation. It's also stillness. It's also deep listening. It's being able to actually start the day by doing a prayer. That's water. Then comes air. Where's my list? Where's my phone? What am I doing? What am I reading? Airheads, right? That's airheads. And they're all over. Then it comes to earth. And you're like, now, wait, what was today about again? I got to check things off my list. Did I get dinner? Did I eat? Did I make sure I paid the bills? Did everything get done? And then the fire part of the day is let's drink some wine. Let's light up. Let's celebrate. Where's the fun factor? So the elements are very practical. And you probably have a preference. Like I can see where for you, the air element, because you're missing it, is not your best thing. So when it comes to the ideas, you've got to stay in communication with people because you have no air. So you can forget to write back. You've got to really keep your eye on the ball.
I do. Yeah. Thank you for that. I was just literally thinking that right before we were doing this. I was like, yes.
Okay, so when you know you're missing an element, you go read in the book about what do you do to cultivate it, and it will say, make sure you ask questions, make sure you have a list, make sure you have, like, you've got to keep your shit together.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like having an astrology therapist / mom on the show.
I was going to say that I liked how you have the characteristics, but then you also have these cool little action plans or you're like step 1, 2, 3, or, here's the meditation you do around it. Here's your
book.
What's that?
It's not just information. The book has ways to get yourself in relationship with these elements.
Yeah. Yes.
And by the way, the oldest 4 elements in the world: west, north, south, and east. Water, winter, summer, fall, and spring. Everything happens in those 4 directions. The whole of our society is built on this. The American Indians, anybody who lives in America, we've forgotten these beings, but they were all operating with their relationship to the 4 directions. And the Kabbalistic Jews, the oldest religions, the Buddhist, the 4 noble questions. So 4 is the number.
Check. So the steps I'm on page, like working with the element of fire, page 133, the steps: explore. You've got step 1, explore. Step 2, articulate. Step 3, investigate. Step 4, transform. And then the little tactics within that. So it's very useful. I also liked a thing that popped out at me was a line in there, and I can't remember if it was in Fire or not. I think it was, but it was about relaxing and telling myself I've got nowhere to go and I've got nothing to do. Right. And so to like in the moment be able to actually appreciate the moment and not feel like, damn it, I missed sending that email to that person that my airiness. Right. Like I also like the part about the fire where that one thing very recently I had this awareness of that fire side of me. Even if I am trying to not garner attention, I'm still garnering attention. I'm like, it hit me one day. I was like, you know what? I could have short hair, long hair. I can dress bright. I can dress subdued. It doesn't matter. My nature is to garner attention.
Said the Leo. Out of the book. Have you seen my funny videos on YouTube?
No.
We just reached 9 million hits. So they're 5 minutes long.
Okay.
Just go to YouTube and you put in Debra Silverman Leo, and you are going to laugh your head off. And then you watch Scorpio because your moon is in Scorpio.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I didn't. Tell me. What's the implication of my moon being in Scorpio?
You're a very secretive internal person who has a lot of feelings. It's hard to access. It's just hard to put words to them.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. It's so true. And there was talking about that in here too. The missing
That's
element.
water. That was the water chapter. That's
I have. So anyway, I the other day, I was like, you know what? I like the attention, and I'm going to admit it. I'm not going to hide from it anymore. I like the attention. Clearly, I like the attention. And what else?
Your rising sign is water. So you're double water. You should be reading the first chapter.
Okay.
Water chapter. You're way more sensitive than you appear.
Yeah, I am so sensitive. It's ridiculous. And I'm learning to love that about myself slowly but surely.
That's the answer. That's what the book is all about. That's right.
Yes, I loved it. I like that. I like the observer, the way you talk about the observer and being able to laugh at yourself and take that step back and acknowledge the quirkiness of who we are. And the more that we can do that, the more that I can appreciate and laugh. I shouldn't say laugh at other people, but laugh with other people.
You're supposed to be observing yourself and laughing at yourself. You kind of miss.
Yes.
The observer's not watching others, it's watching you.
Yes. I got that, but then it gives you more of an appreciation.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
I know there's no hiding from it. Yes, I am. Let's go. Let's talk about my chart. So I want to know if looking at my chart, like, what do I have to look forward to? Talk to me. What's up?
I don't do prophecy. I mean, there is astrologers that do that. And I do train people to do it, but I do personality assessment. The biggest thing I look at is the most important thing, which is how do you fall in love with your fate?
Yeah.
So it's less about what's coming, although there's plenty of astrologers on my team who are obsessed with predictions. I'm more about if I can really accept myself and remember who I am and embody it with full conviction and manifest or womanfest a life that reflects my true purpose. Yeah.
I love that, and I'm all in. So let's work with that. So the little that you know about me, and
all about you, Mr. Leo. Your question is, ask me your question. A little bit I know.
So I guess my question would be, with the chart that you have, which you shared the screen and basically showed me a version of this, right? Because and I loved the mathematical. You're like, hey, it's all math. It's great. But know it, like, what can Misha glean from our conversation? What can you help give me so I can mindfully move forward and embrace, I guess, my Leo-ness, perhaps?
The first thing is I hope you exercise all the time. Do you?
Yes.
That's very, very important for you.
Okay. And that's to kind of keep the energy moving. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Because when a fire person stagnates, they get pissy. And when they get pissy, they lose their temper, and then they lose their friends, and then they have no respect for themselves. And I like how you're getting red, and this is really working for you. The short answer is, and it's not worth just talking about you, although that is obviously making your face red. It's more about the collective. I have a real passion right now. What do we need to do for this planet? And if it's being yourself is the answer, and then how do you make sure that you're operating with a selflessness? Like, I spend my whole life asking every day, who can I serve today? Like, if everyone did this premise, everywhere I go, from the bank to the post office to the grocery store to Zoom, cyberspace, I'm always asking, who can I serve today? That's going to help us, because I've just been researching like crazy this climate change thing, and we are not in a good way. Have you done any research on that?
You know what? I have done enough traveling to know, and I went to Iceland a number of years back, and I was just to see the change in the not the icebergs, the glaciers was very stark. I want you to know as well, although I'm clearly Leo and I like to talk about me and my face flushes. Before I started recording with you, 10 minutes before, I stop and I'm quiet. I'm like, okay, God or source, call it whatever you want, but how can I be of service? What can I bring to the table? Right? Like, what can we do with this for the community? So although I have fun talking about me, it is.
And so we all need to have an ego, for God's sake. We have Leos for a good reason. They do their hair really nice and they dress up and they get us all excited and enthusiastic. However, we have to leave at some point what you're doing. Like, you go from the personal, you got to do the personal, and then you go to the collective and you say, how can I serve? And I mean that really seriously. And I'm not sure yet. I just know that right now I'm doing all the research. I've just watched David Attenborough's Breaking Boundaries. It came out last month.
Okay, tell me.
He basically said, in no uncertain terms, we have 7 years left. That the biggest thing was the reefs. I didn't know the coral reef has died. That the white bleaching of the coral reef is describing now the end of the ocean, and that by 2050 there'll be no more fish. There'll be more plastic in the ocean than there will be fish. Did you just hear what I said?
I just heard what you said.
And then Greta Thunberg stands on stage, of course, and she says, the house is on fire. Why are we all sitting here? So I feel like Debbie Downer, which I'm trying to avoid because I'm really a happy soul.
Yes.
I am speaking to the unspeakable, and I'm now making all of my platform relative to the contributions we can make. And I'm starting with personality types. So Leo is one of the hardest ones, because you've got to stop thinking about you completely and say, because Leo's, it's not just that they're ego-centered, they love shining. I mean, their function is to make us happy and be alive. But if they're shining without facing the truth that we are, I don't even know how to say this. I think it's really, I'm going to make myself very unpopular pretty soon here. Because
do it. I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay. I will agree with you 100% that I believe we have a very advertising, like, marketing or advertising has co-opted all this terminology to give us the illusion that we're making progress. And I would say progress towards a better world in regards to global warming, the destruction of the planet, all this stuff. Like, I would say, at best case, the amount of the increase in the rate of destruction is perhaps declining. So we're actually have not turned any corners towards better. We're just maybe not doing as much damage as fast as we were. That would be my impression.
I mean, Dalai Lama, there's less war, but the extinction of the animals in Australia during those fires, 5 million frogs were killed.
Dang.
The whole frog, there's no more. That the wildlife in Australia at the end of those fires was to the tune of billions of animals were killed. I think we can't tolerate this conversation. That's what's true. It's impossible.
Absolutely. It's impossible. I think, what I love about the premise of the book this is the way I would take the premise of the book. If we can find that radical self-acceptance about who we are, about our emotions, our emotional state, then we can perpetrate less damage onto other people. I don't know if that's a good way to say it. Or we don't need to embrace the consumer machine to hide our feelings, emotions, reality, however you want to say it. So that's the way I take the book and what you're writing. You're like, hey, we need to find radical self-acceptance so that way we don't need to perpetrate this madness anymore.
It's true, because then we won't have to consume, because the single ingredient that is perpetuating the destruction of this reality is consumption.
Yeah.
And the population is 7.8 now, but it's going to be 10 million and 10 billion. And we can't survive. I mean, look at the traffic. I don't know where you live, but it's really gotten crazy pants here in Hawaii.
Yeah. I have a few thoughts, and I'm glad we can talk about this, but I have this idea of, as humans, we get very myopic on the human existence, and meaning that if humans, can you hear the train?
I loved it. Everybody loves the sound of the train in the distance.
God, I love the train. So good.
Songwriter.
This idea of we're so myopic in believing that human existence is the be all end all of everything, and that if human existence or human thinking were to disappear, then the universe has no meaning, right? And so I that's how I find solace in the fact that we may be on a path of self-destruction as the human race, right? Like if I can let go of this idea that humans are the most important, we're the be all end all, that there is something greater, that the more, like, this book helps me, and I printed it out, so I'm showing it. It helps strip away that illusion of separation so that I can feel connected, and then know that there's more and greater than this. That maybe speak to that for a minute.
Of course, there's more. You're so funny. I'm following you, Mr. No Error. Of course, there's something greater. The survival of the human is not required for the earth to continue to thrive. In fact, quite the opposite. We are a cancer. We are overwhelming her. We are taking from her. We are neglecting her care. We are not honoring the fact that she's suffering. We are completely neglecting our mom, period. Now, yes. Is there one of us here? Yes. And will one of us, me or you, decide to love mom? Yeah. So I'm changing the story. I'm uplifting it by, you're so right, giving people back to themselves, rekindling their natural chi. And then once we do that, we're going to gather around I feel like I'm going to lead an army. I have, except for Anthony, I have 50 women employees in my company.
Okay.
And they're all ready to say, let's stand up for mom. It's not, feminine or male. It's this Mother Earth is just desperate for us to say, I'm sorry for taking all of your oil and putting plastic in the water and consuming all of your food and needing more and throwing it away and doing waste with plastic I'm sorry.
I agree. I think it's an interesting thing to be coming out of the COVID and trying to get back to the way it was.
Normal.
And clearly, we were given an opportunity to catapult ourselves forward, right? So I find it a little disconcerting of the need to get back to the way it was, the need to
continue business as usual.
Yeah, like GDP as the measure of the value of humanness is insane, right? Clearly that model is proven not to work if you open your eyes just a little. So I guess the question becomes, right, like, if we're all God's creation and we've got people like you and me, and I'd say you even more, where you're like, hey, we're treating the earth bad. Like, this is not good. This is, we need to nurture Mother Earth and stem the tide or turn the course. And then we've got people on the other side that are still like, you know what? I want Amazon drone delivery so I can have more shit. right? Like, and there's going to be no, how do we, do we force that person to not take advantage of Amazon drone delivery so they can get another widget? And I live simply. I try to live simpler every day, but still I'm just looking around going, how many pens do I need? Right. Or whatever. Sorry to get airy on you, but how do we reconcile that?
It's a really good question. So just asking the question is so important. We don't have any answers right now.
Yeah.
We have no solutions.
Yeah.
We do, but we're not listening. If they said everyone put, because I ride a bike, I don't use my car. Yeah. But if I tell people that, they're like, what? Do you ride a bike? What did you say?
No, I said, I'm with you. I barely drive. I use my car so little, it kind of freaks people out. And I have a car, a vehicle. I have this old truck, and it's probably not the most environmentally friendly because it's from 2001 or 1998 or whatever it is. But I can tell you the amount of damage to replace it, because since I barely use it, it's like, keep the old for now, maybe.
No, that's the answer. But you see how it's so confusing? And this is what I want to finish with, because we're just about done.
Okay.
There's a lot that's occurring on the planet. The elements are the place we come back to because they've lived across all time. They're the source of all creation. They'll be here when we leave. They'll be here if we stay. The closer you get to the elements and understand the function of your emotional body, water, how to use your words, air, how to maintain practical relationship with this physical plane, earth, and how to have fun. I mean, these are the simple principles brought to you by esoteric law across all time. Debra Silverman is the voice of it. And I have a class starting in Wednesday, 1 week, one class per week for an hour. So you come in and you identify your missing element. You take that class, you get some homework. There'll be 200-300 people in the room, all of us doing the same thing. And then we watch people's lives change. And that's where you reclaim the missing element. You get yourself into a powerful state and you can contribute to this planet.
I love it. I love it. Will you indulge me with another question?
Sure. Where are you looking? For somebody we don't know? What was your other question?
I try to ask everybody this, and it has to do, and this is going to be a little off topic, but I appreciate, and I think it's off topic, but on topic at the same time. So I was humbled per that sentence in your book. I was humbled, right? Divorce, financial upheaval, career, further failed relationships, kids not acting like I wanted. My parents died in rapid succession, right? It was like life humbled me. And then I felt like I was in this spot of, I started crying every day for a couple of years. This is 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, right? And I was doing all this internal work, trying to tap into those emotions that
water, your double water. Yes, that's your soul.
Yeah. And so I felt like I was purging generational pain. So not only my own.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah. So do you believe that's a real thing?
Of course. That's Scorpio Cancer, double water. Read the water chapter. They feel for other people and can't distinguish what their pain is from the other. That's the whole first chapter.
Yeah. And so I felt like I was releasing perhaps trauma that my parents and from generations back. Yeah. And I also felt like if we believe that we're all energetically connected, right? That I was like, I got to see a shift. I got to see, by me healing my energy, I got to see my kids shift and change without even having to do anything.
Yes. That's all I teach. You got it.
Okay, fantastic. Good. I do have some insights then. Tell me too, I know along the way you've got to enter or do some work with some like people of note, perhaps Madonna or Sting. Like what is that fun? Is that a fun place for you to play when you were doing that? Or
I still do that. I still have famous clients. It's always gets so much attention. I find it fascinating that celebrities accrue a charismatic magnetic force field that people are drawn into because they represent excellence. And I just don't feel intimidated by it. I just feel absolutely honored to be standing next to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, and I think this goes without saying, but my guess is you will see radical shifts for the positive in people very quickly.
What happens in the school. I wish I had a stash of letters where they get their energy back, where they finally decided to get married, where they finally decided to get divorced, where they opened up. Like, people write me every time they finish that 6-week class starting in September, and their lives are changed. It's the wildest thing. And it's all because it's not just astrology, it's astrology and psychology, but you study your own chart for 6 weeks, once a week for about 2 hours, and you learn the language. And the next thing you know, you're back to yourself.
It's amazing. So anybody going through perhaps a lumpy time in their life where it's to be a great opportunity to dive in and perhaps even get like some positive momentum moving forward.
Yeah. DebraSilvermanAstrology.com.
Fantastic.
Or live.meettheplanets.com. Oops, Meet the Elements. We just did the planets. Meettheelements.com. Yeah, that's the two ways to get a hold of me. And of course, we have Instagram. Do you have Instagram?
I do.
I don't know where my phone is. What's your Instagram handle? Mine's Debra Silverman Astrology.
Yes, I believe I follow you. Mine's Mr. Misha Z. Mr. MISCHA Z. Mr. Misha Z.
Well, I'll do that when we're done. Well, thank you so much for this interview.
Hey, Debra, it's been a ton of fun. Thank you for indulging my airiness and my Leo-ness.
My pleasure.
And let's heal. And I'm going to give you one last little thing about your book, because I wanted to make sure I touched these points, and I'm going to let you go. You said much about acceptance, surrender, and forgiveness in the missing element. And I love that, because I think for humans moving forward, the more we can accept who we are and other people are, the better. The more we can surrender to circumstances, right? Cede that control. And then that forgiveness, man. And I think it's the chicken or the egg. If I'm able to forgive you, do I forgive me, or is it me first? I don't think it matters, but the more I can forgive, the better. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed. Cheers.
Hope to see you somewhere online or in the school, or read the book, Missing Element. So thankful.
I might very well jump in the school. I'm thinking about that. I'm like, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you get a special rate because you're a podcast host. So let us know.
Okay. Fantastic.
Hello?
Cheerio. Have a good day. See you in class. Thank you for spending time with me today. As someone who is committed to growth and service to this world, I so appreciate your willingness to come with me, go within, and serve our world through change. If you found value in this podcast and you know someone who can use this message, share this episode with them. Share it so our mission can be achieved one episode at a time. And of course, subscribe so you can hear more. And lastly, for more resources on what has helped me on my journey and can help you on yours, go to belove.media/resources. That's BELOVE.media/resources. Thank you again for listening.